In 2011, the White House called Becca Stevens a champion for change. It's easy to see why. She has helped change the lives of thousands of abuse survivors, and the first one she helped was herself.
Thistles are the only flower that were growing when I was walking and meeting the women on the streets where they were doing drugs or turning tricks or sleeping in alleys.
20 years ago, Becca Stevens started Thistle Farms, a home in Nashville, Tennessee for survivors of trafficking and addiction. Doris and Donna have both received hope through the program.
This place have a strong foundation. God sent us here to get a second chance.
When I came in, I was so broken, and I was so abused from the inside out, and I'm so grateful that I found this community.
Through home and body product manufacturing, a cafe, and gift shop, Thistle Farms is the largest survivor-led enterprise in the U.S. Becca's desire to help others grew from pain she experienced after she was abused as a child.
It's beautiful that all of our brokenness can become transformed into compassion, and it can be a strength in ministry, the trials we've gone through.
In her book, Love Heals, Becca shares how she changed her pain into her life's purpose and reveals how the pathway to healing starts with forgiveness.
Becca Stevens is here with us now. Becca, we're so glad to have you here. Welcome to the 700 Club.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I love your book, and Love Heals. This is out right now, and it begins with a story. You were having a miscarriage. Your mom was in the same hospital with a terminal brain disease, and a nurse walks, and you're just, I mean, it's just about the rock bottom for you. A nurse walks in and says something to you. What happened?
She said, is this Ann Stevens, the wife of Joe Stevens?
Your mom, talking about your mom.
The nurse did. And so I was like, my dad had been dead for 30 years. He died when I was a little girl by a drunk driver.
Right.
He had only been in Nashville a year. And so how did she know him, and how did she say it? And she said when she was a little girl, on the day that my dad was killed by a drunk driver, he had just left the house where her mom and dad were having a crisis, and he had come by to pray with them. Left the house and had been killed, and she said, I will be honored to take care of your mom.
Wow.
It was beautiful.
And in that moment, you knew God was with you. You knew you weren't alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And you feel that sense of like, it feels like it's spinning out of control, but we're grounded.
Yes. Oh,
and
wow.
We're grounded by some, you know, our Creator, our God that loves us so much.
Now, your father, as you said, he was a pastor, was killed by a drunk driver when you were little. A man from your church, a leader in the church, came to your house to help your family. And tell us what happened then.
Well, he began to sexually abuse me. I was 6, and it began in the church. And what I've come to understand is that happens quite a bit. When somebody's had one trauma, one tragedy, you're vulnerable, and that's who predators seek out and exploit. And so that I was grieving, I was looking for a father figure, I was a great target for him.
How long did that abuse last?
Do you know, I think it went on for almost 3 years. My last memory, I was almost 9 years old.
Oh my goodness. How did that trauma affect you as a child and later as an adult?
You know, I think for a lot of folks, especially what I've learned in my life, is that trauma affects every aspect of your life, how it makes you fearful, or how it changes relationships in your life. And, you know,
and trust issues.
Trust, exactly, everything. It changes everything. And people are like, when are you going to get over it, is the question. It's like, I'm going to go deeper than it. I'm going to work harder around it. But it's going to be a part of my life, and I won't get over it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 6 years old, you probably don't even know what sex is. You don't know you don't even know you're being sexually abused probably till it's too late.
Right.
Yeah.
And plus, if there's a 35-year-old man that wants to do something to you, you're pretty powerless over that, and you don't even have the words to really explain what's going on.
Now, eventually, you did go and talk to a counselor. How old were you at that time?
I was in my late 20s.
And what did they recommend?
Well, they recommended, you know, what everybody recommends now, you know, when you have trauma-informed care, that you learn how to tell the story in a safe way, that you have a group that you can be with, that you have self-care, you know, all kinds of ways. Absolutely, but what I really need to do, especially when I started working with all women who were survivors of sexual assault, I really needed to go and confront him. That's what I knew I had to do.
Wow. And what happened when you did that?
It was amazing because I talked to my mom and my husband, and I said, I'm going, and they both like, let me go with you. And I was like, you know what? No one was with me when it happened.
Right.
And I really need to go back and take care of this myself.
Did he admit it?
Oh, he and his wife were sitting in the room, and his very first question is, who have you told? Who have you told? And I was like, I've got some really bad news for you. It's not my secret. So I've told a lot of people. I get why it's his secret, but I want him to get better too, and I want him to not do that to anybody else.
So did he apologize?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
I mean, yes, he apologized, but I wasn't looking for that. What I was really looking for was for him to take that story back and figure out what healing was going to look like for his family and for him and his life. That I needed to let it go.
So you took this pain and this incredible trauma that happened to you, and you turned it into something that's today known as Thistle Farms in Nashville and spreading all over tell us about Thistle Farms.
So Thistle Farms is it's a global community of women, all survivors of trafficking, addiction, prostitution, all kinds of sexual assault. And women come together, they live for 2 years. We talk about love as the most powerful force for change in the world and in our own lives. And we come together and we're a community, and then we started a business because as long as the women were poor, they were going to be vulnerable back to the drugs or back to the streets. But if we could be a community and care about each other economically, spiritually, you know, and be there for each other, we can grow a company and be as big as we want. And
speaking of that, here are some of the beautiful products. And I'm really loving this lavender candle because it's so relaxing and you can smell it from here, and it's this Love Heals. It smells amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming these are all
they're all
natural
handmade. They're all natural. They're all handmade. That's one of the big differences of this company versus other companies. It's not like we're doing this for women. The women who are the survivors are doing it for themselves, and we all get to be supportive and watch women heal communities, get their children back, go back and make restitution with the courts. It's amazing to watch how love heals.
And these are women who've come out of sexual abuse like you did, but also prostitution and
human trafficking.
Human trafficking, which is huge.
On average, the women that we serve are first raped between the ages of 7 and 11.
Yeah.
And they first hit the streets between 14 and 16 years old.
And so some of them will stay up to 2 years, huh?
Yes, and the people who run the company have been there, some of them have been there 20 years. You know, 10 years, 15 years. They are managers, and they do a beautiful job running the whole company.
Well, tell us about Doris. She's one of the survivors at Thistle Farms, and what can you tell us about her?
Doris is a joy. She is a singer. She is a faithful disciple. She is awesome. And even when she came in, she had a lot of fear. But she always had more hope than fear, and that's what I love about it. Doris was from the streets of Nashville, Tennessee. She talks about being trapped in a 10-block radius for more than 20 years.
Oh, my goodness. And recently, Thistle Farms began a program in Greece. Is that right?
Yes. So, you know, a lot of the women that fled Syria are in Greece for years and years and years as refugees, and they're in the camps. And so I think on average, people stay in refugee camps now like 17 years, and there's a link between those camps and human trafficking. More than 12,000 girls have gone missing from those camps. So we thought it'd be nice to go and to weave some of the life vests and blankets that they fled Syria with to get to Greece into a beautiful welcome mat. And so we do a weaving project with 9 women in the refugee camp. And those mats are just a symbol that they can take something that was part of their trauma and fear and make something beautiful and healing out of it.
And real quick, why Thistle? Why the name Thistle Farms?
Well, thistle was the only weed or wildflower, whatever you want to call it, that was growing when we were going out to meet the women in the alleys and on the streets where they were sleeping or turning tricks or being abused. You know, we saw thistles and thought, this is how it is with God's love. Things that we say are notorious weeds or cast out can be brought in. We don't have to leave anybody or anything behind.
Yeah.
And so we can use the thistle as a symbol of how much we are loved.
And your t-shirt says, "Love heals every body."
That's it.
Right. And you can probably get that t-shirt on your website. Maybe with those earrings too.
Yes, and the earrings are made by women survivors as well.
So if people want more information, just go to thistlefarms.com.
And thank you so much. Yes, they can go there. That is so nice of you to say. And they can buy the book, they can buy the product, anything they want.
Wonderful. Well, you can certainly learn more about Becca Stevens and her amazing work in this new book, beautiful book called Love Heals, which is available nationwide. And for more information on Thistle Farms, just go to cbn.com and we'll have a link for you. Becca, you're such an inspiration. God bless you and all the girls at your place.
I appreciate it.